never confuse eligibility with admissibility. And everything I'm going to teach you today is about eligibility. But when you read about it in the papers or it's misrepresented to you, it feels like the admissions policies. It isn't. It's what are the eligible policies. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you hear that the UC system admitted like 80% of the people who applied, the folks who are keeping that promise are these three schools. So what's happened? Well, it's sort of classic. Yes, I'm in the university classroom, I get to see this. It's sort of a classic supply and demand. 3 years ago, housing was absurdly hot. Why? People would pay anything for a house. They were sort of like, there was more of you asking for houses than there were houses available. What happened to housing prices? Up they go. Well, lately, it's sort of been the other way around, and we've been on the other end of that equation. It's been ugly. Well, the law of supply and demand in universities, public universities, are they more or less popular now? They're more, for obvious reasons. Hi, I don't feel like spending $52,000 after tax dollars this year. So these are much more popular. So the number of people who wanted to go to UC and Cal State schools increased this year to the highest levels ever. Well, then there's supply, right? Supply is the number of seats that are available. And this is where it gets interesting. As you know, there was not enough money in the budget this year to fully sustain the UC schools. So they had to go and find new money. And the way they did it is they self-privatized. Michigan has done this. The University of Virginia has done this. And self-privatized means I take out-of-state kids. Why do I take an out-of-state kid? Because I get $22,000 a year more in tuition when I take an out-of-state kid than when I take an in-state kid. So for example, you when you get into a UC school, you'll pay about $8,000 a year. But it costs me $20,000 a year to teach your kid. So I lose money on every kid, right? It's the old joke. I lose money on every kid and then I make it up in volume, right? So the out-of-state students, the international students are profitable. Does that make sense? So what do you think they did this year? They took a lot more out-of-state and international students because the state did not fund them sufficiently. And that impacts the number of seats available for Californians. Does that make sense? That's why schools got more difficult this year. More of you applied, and more of the seats were given to out-of-state and international kids. And just so you know, the number of seats extra that were given, 2,000 more spots were given away to out-of-state and international students. Last year, it was 8,000. This year, it was 10,000. Now it gets, I'll use the word interesting. Branding is very important in colleges. It's why you like Berkeley more than you like Merced. UC Merced does not excite you. Those are the people who go to Fresno and have a good time, in case you can. All right? So Berkeley is more powerfully branded. UCLA is more powerfully branded. So where do you think they took the out-of-state and international kids? Into the more powerfully branded schools. So disproportionately, this one, this one, this one, and this one, because it's a gorgeous campus, they got more international out-of-state kids. What do you think happened to the admit rates of these four schools? Way down. This one's now down to 19%. That's the lowest of any public university in history. I am teaching this not to make you angry and not to annoy you. I actually think it's going to get a little bit easier. As the economy shifts, as it improves, more people will revert back to their normal admissions policies, and more people will say, I still want to go to private school. This year was an ugly year, partly because of panic and partly because of budget. It will improve by the time you guys apply, because you're all in the main class of 2012. Of all of those schools up there, one school actually took more kids this year than last year, and that was the school we're sitting in, Irvine. Irvine got easier to get into. I have no idea why. Questions, comments before I continue? Go. Yes?
Why do you think it's going to get better?
Because more seats are going to open up. They're actually making these schools bigger, which is the preview to where we're going next, which increases the supply of spots that are available. And I believe that fewer people are going to apply, Madame, because not as many students are going to graduate from high school in the next 3 to 4 years, and more students are likely to start applying to the private schools again. So you get both sides of the equation evening out. And whilst we're not here to talk about it, it was even worse at the Cal State schools this year, because the Cal State schools saw a dramatic increase in the number of people applying, and cut something like 40,000 freshman seats to save money. And that too will balance it out. Any other questions before we continue? So, before the crisis, before the budget, a group got together at the UC level, and it's a group called BORS. BORS is a community of professors within the UC system. It's the Board of Admissions and Relations with Schools. They set UC system eligibility requirements. What does that mean? Are you allowed to be considered? Not, is the school going to accept you? I'm going to come back to that again and again and again, because people get so confused. They're the ones that say, how do we want to evaluate who we're going to consider in the big old pool? And BORS had a problem. You see, one, California must take and put the top 12.5% of its high school graduating class into UC schools. That's the state constitution. The top 12.5% must be UC eligible. And the UC's state constitution must have eligibility standards that match the ethnic distribution of people who are graduating. Those are the two constitutional mandates. And the UC system is currently in violation of both. Now, they're actually not worrying too much about the second one. They're not worrying about the second one because of all of the huff and the puffing that's going on around sort of diversity issues and Prop 209 and stuff like that. But they're very committed to the top 12.5% must be UC eligible.
Is that 12.5% for each respective high school?
No, it's for the state, although you have segued to a place that I am going. Okay?
What's the second factor then?
That if you have 100 green, if 10% of the kids graduating from high school are green, then 10% of the kids who are eligible for the UC system should be green. Note that second piece is sort of in abeyance because of the Prop 209s and things like that. So it's really right now, it's all about the first piece. Currently, and I know this is a lot of math, but it's part of the teaching, only the top 10% of the UC kids, of the state kids are eligible. There's a gap. They've only got 10. They need 12.5. And each of these UC schools is planning significant increases in their campus sizes. Jimmy, how big is Irvine? Is it what, 13,000? Okay, Irvine, this campus, is mapped to go to 30,000 people. Riverside is mapped to double. Merced is mapped to be a behemoth, because basically the land is free, right? So there are not enough people to fill the seats. They have a problem. They don't have enough prospects. They don't have enough customers, which is weird after what I put up on the board, right? So today, it's ugly. In the future, they don't have enough customers. So these changes that they are making are designed to give them access to more customers. Are they designed to help more kids get into Berkeley? No, because Berkeley's about admissibility. They're about having more kids be eligible. And I'm going to hammer on this point, because I don't want anyone going here and saying, this system is designed to utterly screw my kid. I don't want that, because that's the go-to move. This is just a blind way to let more green kids in and keep more red kids out. That's not what's in play here. They've got to have a bigger pool. The one they have is too shallow.